This is Deborah Johnson for Women at Halftime, and I'm passionate about helping women use their untapped skills, resources, and talents to create their ideal work and lifestyle, making a difference in their second half. Well, hello, here we are, Greg and Deb on today with a wonderful subject for you.
You're just going to love it.
I know. Fitness for the new year from an athlete and an artist. Okay, so I wonder who the athlete is, and I wonder who the artist is. So, great subject. To remind you, the summit is out with some great reviews. It's on Amazon. You can find all versions there. Please pick up one. Great gifts as well. And as this airs...
And if I could brag on you, great read.
It really is. It really is. I'm very proud of it. So as this airs, we are in December. So you can get this like last minute, especially if you have Prime. You can get last minute gifts here. And wonderful gift, actually, for most any age. Anyway, so also HeroMountainSummit.com, my Hero Mountain Summit program, which is a 5-month. You won't find one like this really anywhere, especially for the sort of investment. It's a 5-month virtual to kind of keep you on track, to get you on track. I have talked to so many of this. Oh yeah, I just haven't gotten around to that, or I'm just, where am I going next? Mid-career, halftime of life. This is it. I open this up twice a year. That's it. And you get more access.
Yeah, really, if they want to get off the dime and get started on 2022 and move in a new direction in life, that summit is going to be great.
It's the best. It's just wonderful. So plenty of not only content, but accountability. People just need that little push. We talk about all the areas. You can get the free download on Hero Mountain Summit. It'll tell you more about it. So, but we're going to get to this subject today.
So we thought we would ruin your Christmas before you ate all the chocolate pie, extra desserts, by talking about exercise.
How about that? And really we do come from different backgrounds. Imagine that. But it's what we're talking about this like for the new year, because how many people, you don't have to raise your hands now, have joined a gym and gotten so motivated. I'm going to get in shape this year. And that lasts maybe, if you're lucky, a month. So, that's statistic wise. So we're going to talk about a couple areas here. And there's always an article with every single podcast like this that I put out, unless it's a special edition of something. But make sure you're going to get plenty of links and things even we talk about, equipment we talk about, so you can look them up for yourself. So make sure that you do that. So my first question, and I'm going to ask you first. Okay. Greg, you've gotten a little bit, cocky on these now. I mean, you're getting a little comfortable on this now. You come on with me once a month. So, but I know that you're going to probably give some really great advice here. Define fitness for you at this stage of life. So you're the...
Now, do you want me to compare that to when we were younger?
Yeah, I would, because maybe not all that are listening to this, but you are at the mid-career. Now, halftime of life is officially over the age of 40.
I'm over 40.
And we're both over 40, definitely over 40. But your body kind of changes, right? You don't like to admit that.
I don't know. Does it?
Weren't we just talking the other day how we couldn't go and have the big schooner Sunday? Like normally we'd eat the whole thing. Yeah. And now, we got to share it. So what does fitness mean to you? And I'll define it too, because believe it or not, he's the athlete and I'm the artist. So go ahead. I'm going to let you start.
So we've talked a little bit about how my training has changed, and when I was in my 20s and 30s, and even my 40s, I tended to work out to exhaustion. And the reason was you're always trying to see if you could run faster, run farther, push harder. And so, if last week I ran an 8-minute mile, this week I might want to see if I could hit 7:50. And and so you're kicking it in at the last lap and just seeing how fast you could go. And it was always pushing the next boundary. And now that I'm beyond 40, I'm finding that my fitness goals revolve more about maintaining my quality of life, maintaining my flexibility, and maintaining the endurance I need to really enjoy active vacations.
Right.
So what that details is a lot of stretching, a lot of cycling, a lot of walking, with some strength training included. But the strength training tends to be more on my legs, so that my legs stay strong and flexible. And I like upper body strength. My shirts fit better, but in terms of maintaining my quality of life, it isn't as important as maintaining the strength in my quads and my rear end. So.
Right. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But and I've watched Greg as a professional athlete in spring training, and how hard, believe it or not, I did watch how hard, he doesn't think I even paid attention, but how hard you guys trained and how hard you ran. And so those are, and we'll talk about some of those mental shifts as well. And for me, I grew up, just trying to pass my PE courses, and that was it. I mean, I was in music, I was in no, extra sport.
So when you were in college, what were your goals for exercising?
Well, my goals, and I started working out more in college. I started running, actually, and I do like to run.
Now, was it running?
It was mostly running, and
or
then
was
I
it
joined.
Jogging?
Well, yeah. Okay. Can you tell who's the athlete and who's the artist?
I was just helping her define things accurately.
I know. I tell you what, the realistic part. But for me, at this stage, when I'm defining fitness, I am defining it as fitness and my strength training, because I want to keep strength up, but also my breath, because I notice how when I start not huffing and puffing when I'm taking a walk up a hill, I'm in better shape. So part of my workout includes stuff that will push my breath, which is usually, some of the cycling and the stepping ups. And we'll talk about the step ups on all of those as we go along. But that's, for me, was, working on the breath. And running was doing that. When I would run, and I called it running, but if you timed me, it was probably jogging, but I called it running. So, and I'd go, 7-8 miles, but then my knees started hurting a little bit. And I know there's things that you can do for that, but I thought, I'm just going to kind of switch it up a little bit. And I've loved the biking. So that's been doing it for me. So anyway, anything to add to that? And I'm going to talk about mindset shifts a little bit. Did you have something to add?
Just that, so your goals have changed even from just jogging. It's kind of overall body toning and keeping things working. And
I want to fit in my clothes,
Right.
Basically. And I do when I work out kind of regularly. And I feel better. I'm very much on a routine. Fancy that. But I have my routine. It just makes me feel better as far as, doing something. And I start early. You don't with your exercise, at least. We both are up. But I like to exercise early. You like to exercise a little later.
After I'm awake.
I just sort of send my body and it wakes up as I exercise, I guess. I know there's been some jokes about that too, of me not really being quite awake when I exercise, but I think I am. So, but yeah, that strength training for me, and I feel better, and with the core and with all of those exercises, I do feel better. I usually look forward to finishing my workout. That's, some people really just love to be working out. That's never been a real love of mine, That's why I get it done early.
But most people just like to get their piano practice done.
Right.
So,
and
unlike some people I know.
and I enjoy the process. Yeah, so everybody's going to enjoy something different. That's fair. That's very fair. Okay, so what are some of these mindsets? Because this is you would go to exhaustion, and now your body is a little bit different, but you've had to shift as a professional athlete. You've had to shift some mindsets, and that kind of went in how you defined fitness a little bit. But personally, how did you have to come to that point of saying, I just can't do that anymore? You can still throw a baseball, though. I tell you what, I've seen you. I mean, it's pretty amazing how you can just still. It's right in there, and you've got to get a good catcher to, catch.
Hey,
what
if you
can
do
throw.
Anything 20 or 30,000 times, you can remember how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's very natural for you. But, making it through the whole game is another point. So, but how is your mindset?
Well, I think when, you're in your 20s and you go out to run 2 miles, you're not worried about hip flexibility. You're not worried about stretching your back. So you can focus all of your energies, for 15 or 20 minutes on just conquering this goal in front of you.
Right.
And a hard run like that is good exercise.
Right.
So, but as I've gotten older, everything tends to tighten up. So your hips tighten up, your knees tighten up, your ankles tighten up, your hamstrings and your quads tighten up, your neck tightens up. So, I can spend 20 minutes a day just doing maintenance stretching.
Right.
And I tease that after 50, you have a new part-time job, and that's doing your exercises, because if it takes 20 minutes just to do routine stretches, much less trying to replicate a yoga class, and then you spend maybe a half hour doing some sort of resistance training. Now we're up to 50 minutes.
Right.
If you do a 10-minute walk, you've got an hour in.
Yeah.
And you just maintained, really.
Yeah.
So if you mix in a 40 to 60-minute bike ride 3 times a week, you're beginning to eat up a lot of time.
Right.
And so you've got to focus on, what is it that I really need?
Right.
And do I need at this stage to be able to run an 8-minute mile?
Right.
No.
Right.
Do I need to make sure my back and legs are flexible, that I have enough strength to, climb stairs?
Right.
Yes. So, you just gotta, I think at our stage of life, exercise to meet needs is more important than to meet show.
Right.
I don't need to bench press 250 pounds. I don't need to run 7-minute miles.
Right.
I don't need to be able to run 6 miles. There's no reason for me to squat 300 pounds. But I do need to get my weight out of a chair.
Yes.
So some squats are important.
Yeah. And one of your favorite things to always say, you sit down after a workout and you say, you should have seen me an hour ago. And now it's been, you should have seen me a couple hours ago. And then it's been, you should have seen me yesterday.
Yeah, because what happens is when I work out, I get nice and loose and I'm flexible and I feel good. And then I'll come in and turn on a baseball game and sit there for an hour. And Deb will want me to get up and help her with something. And I can barely get out of the chair. The results aren't lasting. You got to do it again tomorrow.
You sure do. And one of my personal goals and mindsets at this point, because I've kind of through the years actually upped my level of wanting to work out and stay in shape, because I never really even thought about this growing up. I mean, I just kind of, again, my main goal was passing my PE course. And if I got through it, I was doing good. You know, we used to have in our school, when we were going through, we used to have all of those presidential things that we had to pass, and you have to run so fast. You'd have to do the pole vault, which I'd always miss. I never could get over that pole. I think finally when I would, and I'd just be exhausted.
Do we have video of that?
Oh, no, there was no video. Fortunately, when I knocked the wind out of myself doing a backwards roll. I'm honest here, okay? So I was not a grown athlete. But now, I want to do active vacations when we go places, you know, that have bike riding and that have hiking.
3 or 4 mile walks.
Yes.
Because you're sightseeing by foot.
Exactly. And we've started doing that more in booking, travel that we can actually be active. And actually, I'm starting to book some that I want to make sure he keeps as active as possible.
And even though she's joking a little bit, having small goals, you know, so if you book an active vacation every 6 months, you know, 6 months keeps your head in the game that, you know, I really need to get that bike ride in. I really need to get these 2 miles walked.
Yeah.
Because if you take too many days off, you won't be able to go on vacation. Or you'd be able to go, but you wouldn't be able to enjoy it. So, having goals is worthwhile.
Right. It really is having very important. And as we talk about, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, the decades of our life, and I won't totally say how old we are, but we are, you know, as you move through these, and even, I mean, as we look ahead with those 60s and 70s and all of that to say, what is my body going to be like? And we've gone through, like you've gone through a couple of, you know, what I called the year of the toe. If you want to read all about it, read my Women at Halftime book. I do, you know, outline that. But where you were on that little scooter and all of a sudden, you know, your body changed as, you know, you face some atrophy and many people, if they go through like a hip surgery or they go through a knee surgery, now they can do these things much quicker. But you still have some recovery time and how to get back in shape. You just have to keep moving. There's just no substitute for moving. Yeah.
If you stop moving, your muscles will atrophy, shrink. So you got to keep moving. With the year of the toe, I had developed, unbeknownst to me, a bone spur underneath my left big toe. And it got infected. But so about 3 months before the operation, I had stopped running. I really couldn't do much. And then it was about a 2-month recovery after that. So, 5 months into this, they allowed me to walk.
Yeah.
And then it was another 6 weeks, so I'm 6-7 months before I could jog again. And by that time, my ankle and the lower part of my calf, and this is just in 6 or 7 months, had atrophied so much that I really couldn't do it. Yeah. And it took me probably a year to build the lower part of my calf and my ankles up to where, I could sort of jog. I still really can't. Yeah. But
although you're doing pretty well.
It's better.
Yeah. So. And it's little steps of just, and this was, a couple years ago. So it was,
and I was doing all the physical therapy myself, really.
Right.
I hear that the recovery from hip surgery is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
So those of you who've had that, you have my sympathies, and I understand my toe doesn't sound like much, but the point is that the same kind of training that goes into recovering from an injury really goes into maintaining your lifestyle.
Right.
And at some point over 50, you got to admit that it's just a new part-time job.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to commit an hour and a half to stretching, walking and or biking and strength training.
Right. And we'll talk about that next. Now I'd like to get to that in what sorts of exercise, because certain exercises aren't for everyone.
Right.
You know, they like certain things, but you should be adding some things. Like we were just doing some traveling, and I brought, you know, some bands, and I meant to actually have them here for the video so you could see some. But you look at the article, and I'll put some links in some of those with some bands, some stretch bands. And it was easy to bring. It's easy to pack. They don't weigh anything hardly. You can put them in your suitcase and do your exercises in, you know, a hotel room or whatever you want.
The advantage of bands is it gives you resistance. It provides resistance training, even though you don't have a dumbbell.
Right.
And so that's what we use those for.
Right. And then there are, you know, like a bike. I've enjoyed my stationary bike, but I love to get outside too. But when it was cold and we were going through COVID that time, it was like I was walking, but it just wasn't pushing my breath. It wasn't pushing, you know, that my heart too, that I needed more. And so now, I mean, there's a number of programs. We have like an iFit, which I love actually, because, you know, you can go anywhere in the world. I just needed to be out I needed to be traveling when we were sequestered. So we kind of made that leap to get something like that. So, but there's a lot of them. I did my research, and that's the one I really thought was the best. So anyway, there's a lot of other things, the step-ups. And I was just laughing because we have some step-ups. You know, we have an area that we have our little workout area in our home. And I've actually not gone. You've gone back to the gym, but I've not gone back because they're not open early enough for me yet. And plus, I kind of have everything. I got my routine back. You know, I'm on this routine now. So, but I was doing my step-ups the other day, and I came in to Greg and I said, did you put another level on there? Because I noticed instead of 4 risers, there were 5 risers. And what did you say? Oh, you finally noticed.
I'd done it like 2 days earlier, and she finally noticed it. And that's because she sleeps through the first part of her workout.
Pretty funny. Anyway, yeah, but I did notice, I'm thinking, boy, you know, I'm doing okay, but this feels a little higher. So as I was doing, and I do the step-ups with some weights because it was pushing my breath. And I've noticed a difference. I do that even after my bike ride. Find the things that for you will push your weights or push your breath or push whatever. But breath is very important because there's a lot of singers I notice when they start getting a little older. They have this vibrato you can drive a truck through, as I say, but a lot of that is breath support and lower breath support, and it's in the core. And I just feel it's very important for me to keep that up.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not.
Well, and part of breath is heart strength.
Yes.
And
right.
I think Deb's one of the questions we want to talk about is how often should you exercise? Yeah. And my answer was, well, how many days in a row do you breathe?
Yeah.
Because you know, you pretty much need to exercise every day because your heart works every day.
Sure does.
And the more you keep that muscle working, the better off you are.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to work as hard every day, but you should, you know, jack up your heart rate for a little while every day.
Yeah, it really does make a difference. And interval training, just vary it around a little bit. What interval training is to push and then do something a little, you know, you're just doing repetitions with your interval training.
Well, interval training could also be defined as doing 2 or 3 exercises at the same time, as opposed to just doing one exercise and resting. And the reason to do interval training is to keep your heart rate going. So, for instance, if you did 5 push-ups and then 10 sit-ups, and then you just squatted onto a bench 15 times without resting, and then you went to the push-ups again, and you kept going, your heart starts to get higher, even though you're not walking or running anywhere.
Right.
And if you did 7 rounds of that as fast as you could, you'd probably get 10 minutes of heart rate up, and you would have worked your upper body through the push-ups, you'd have worked your core through the sit-ups, and you would have worked your legs through just the easy squats onto a bench.
Yeah.
So that's one example of interval training.
Yeah. And it's a good one. I used to have the little index cards, and actually I referred to them again because you set up a little interval training for me. It's hard. But
the main thing is to use another part of your body while you're resting one part and keep your heart rate up.
Yeah, and once I started pushing myself toward keeping my heart rate up, it was easier. But it was hard to do that right at first.
Yeah, and 3 or 4 exercises allows the first exercise muscles to rest enough that you're ready to go again.
Yeah, and you can go back around to them. Yeah. Good. That was a much better...
As long as you have enough breath to do it.
Yeah, that was a much better definition than what I had given. So I thank you for
I knew I was here to help.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about just a few areas of the body, then I'll sum this up a little bit. But that were really important that you keep up. Of course, I mentioned the core. You talked about the hamstrings and your back end. That was a big deal too, because you had like your glutes.
Yeah. And
you had a coach that said something about the glutes.
Yeah. So I, one period of time, 5-6 years ago, I had a really sore back, and apparently what happens is your hamstrings weaken and your glute muscle weakens. They pull on your lower back, and there's some small muscles in your lower back. And this trainer told me that your rear end or your glute muscles are the laziest muscles in your body.
Yeah.
And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, they will let all the rest of your body do the work. And so a lot of back problems apparently are because your rear end doesn't engage as you lift things. Instead, you try to use your hamstrings and those little muscles at your lower back. And your hamstrings tie in at your lower back. So if you're using hamstrings to do something that your glute muscles were supposed to do, eventually those get stretched too tight and they begin to pull on your lower back. So the antidote isn't just stretching, it's strengthening your rear end. And there's squats, any kind of squat, as long as the weight is on your heels, is good for your rear end. Bridges, and if you don't know what bridge is, YouTube it.
Yes.
And the thing that squats is if you'll shift your weights to your toe, all of the muscle will be engaged in the front of your leg. If you keep a balance so that you can feel your heels drive into the ground, then you're strengthening your glute. And
Cool.
And that will help. There's another exercise we do called deadlifts, which you got to make sure you do right. But basically, you're picking a weight up off the ground with stiff legs, and it stretches the hamstrings, but the pull should be with your glutes. And all of those things done a couple times a week will keep your back from hurting. The step ups that Deb's been talking about, you just step up on, you build a little step out of anything. We've got some risers, and if it's a foot and a half, 2 feet, that engages your hip. So because your hip allows you to raise your knee,
Right.
and then when you press down, you're using the front of your leg, your quads. And then when you step down, you're doing the opposite, and again, using your hip.
Yeah.
And that's a great exercise to keep the muscles around your hip strong. Because something we've discovered is that that hip replacements, knee replacements, basically are the result of somebody using their joints instead of their muscles to do daily activities, which is the ultimate reason to do strength training.
Yes.
Is so that your muscles are doing the work that they're supposed to do, and your joints are merely allowing the bending to take place.
Good.
So if you find your joints are doing the work, then strength training is something you absolutely have to do.
Cool. That's this is why whenever I talk about this, I have him on. Isn't this amazing? Can you guess who the athlete is in? Okay, so some of the programs, and we've talked about some of the equipment. But of course, Pilates, anything like that, your yoga, those are great for stretching. I kind of add those in. I've done virtually.
Well, yoga and
much.
Pilates are
Yes.
both good for strength too.
They really
so,
are.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
using body weight, but in the right positions, body weight can create a tremendous amount of resistance that you've got to hold or push. So don't discount Pilates and yoga as a resistance training plus flexibility.
Yes. And of course, if you're going to do cycling or running or jogging, but also your strength training, some sort of strength training. And it's worth, work with a trainer a couple times and get some sort of interval training in, or, do there's so much stuff on YouTube and some of those programs that you can do. So,
and, just one thing on conditioning, we tend to become focused on something we're good at. So joggers, start jogging a mile, and then they find they can go a mile and a half, and pretty soon they're up to 3 miles, and then 5 miles. And the problem with that is that while your heart's getting worked, you're using one set of muscles that are designed to do the jog. The same thing is with cycling. You might start with a 10-mile ride and then 30-mile ride, and suddenly you're thinking, well, I can do a 40-mile ride.
Right.
And again, that's a different set of muscles than jogging.
Right.
And at this stage of our lives, we find that jogging, biking, walking, and interval training is a much more rounded way to do conditioning. Right. And I'll bike twice a week. Debbie bikes more like 6 times a week.
Yeah,
but
I really like it.
But she also walks a couple miles a day.
I do.
So she's doing both.
And I do some strength training and, all of that, some stretching.
But, I'll typically bike a couple times, jog a couple times, and then I'll do, a 30-minute set of interval training that, takes the pain off my joints, but keeps my heart up.
Right.
So some sort of combination would be better, in our opinion.
Yes.
Because we're trying to maintain our quality of life.
Right.
I just don't need to be able to run 5 or 6 miles.
Right.
It would be glorious probably, but if I trained that hard to get 5 or 6 miles, I'd lose a little bit of strength in my quads that I get from cycling.
Right.
I'd sacrifice time that I could do resistance training, because the training required to run 5 miles would eat up my day.
Right.
So.
Right. And it doesn't need to take that long, but it needs to be consistent. And that's very important. Consistency is very important.
Consistency may be the most important thing.
I think so.
Get up and move something.
And move, yeah. And I kind of allow about 55 minutes, an hour. Sometimes I go 50 minutes, but then I walk as well, because I'm going to walk our dog, And so that's kind of what my program is. And so it's not this a whole long time, and I get it done, and then I'm done. See, that's what I.
So when you walk into the gym on the days where you don't feel like doing it, what do you tell yourself?
Well, really, because it's been a while since I've actually been to the gym. Although I've got a place I've kind of planned. This is what I do. I've kind of looked at if I'm going to do the bike, which I do, a number of days in a row. The day before, I've looked at the day to day, so I know how long I'm going to go. And I sort of had that plan in my mind, and I thought, okay, I just need to start. I just need to get going. And because it's a mindset, I've sort of planned it I've already planned it for the next day. So it wasn't, I've got to show up and do this. So, I know where I'm going to be now today.
So Debbie's self-talk is, I just need to start. I typically lift first and then do the bike afterwards. So my mental note is, okay, and this is the days where I just don't feel like doing it, which is probably at least once a week. Just move something.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Pick a dumbbell off the floor, move a bench.
Yeah.
Squat, down onto a bench, a few times. Just start moving things, and eventually you get into the mode where, okay, let's get with it. The bike's nice because you can pedal as slow as you want.
Yeah.
And nobody's like, your coach isn't there yelling at you.
Yeah.
So, and eventually if you pedal, as fast as you want for 2, 3, 4 minutes, you start going, okay, I can kick this into gear.
Right.
Eventually that always happens.
Yeah.
So just start or just move something. Those are be good 2 key notes.
Yeah. That's really a great thing because I just need to start because there are definitely days I don't feel like it. It's like, or I really want to cut it short. And it's like, oh no, I can do this one more thing. And then I just. Yeah,
once you get into it, you can always talk yourself into one more thing.
Yeah.
It's getting the first thing done. Yeah. That's the hard part.
Right. So it's just like, okay, just get up. Just go. Just get out of bed. No, that's totally. So, well, thank you again. Click into the article if you want to hear any of the links, but we covered a lot today on just mindsets, on, what we need to do as we, lifestyle as we gracefully grow older, but how important it is to move and consistently move. Next week, make sure you join me with the willingness to change in a transformational world. Change, big word right now, but I'm going to be talking about that, about our mindsets, especially as we face, another year and all of that, and how things have changed in a world that has radically changed. But our mindsets, hopefully we are growing and learning. So I will cover some of that. Make sure you check out Hero Mountain Summit for that program. You can message me anytime on any of my social media, Deborah.Johnson at the Facebook. You can get me there or through any of my websites, womenatalftime.com. You can see, of course, this podcast, this show, and Goals for Your Life, and a couple other websites. You can get me DJ Works Music. And thank you for joining me. It's always been a pleasure, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Deborah Johnson here, and thanks again for joining me, Greg.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on Women at Halftime. Visit goalsforyourlife.com or womenathalftime.com for many more resources, downloads, and programs, or to get in touch with me. I'd love it if you leave me a review and tell your friends. So until next time, this is Deborah Johnson, signing off.